Every year, babies are sent to the emergency room and babies die because of faulty crib design, because of drop-side cribs, because of V-style cribs that sometimes malfunction and the babies can get damaged. So we set out to solve this problem. We identified 4 characteristics through our design thinking process that this crib needs to have. It needs to be safe, first and foremost. It needs to be space efficient because our target demographic is limited income families. It has to be affordable because of that, and it also has to be intuitive setup. Unlike a pack and play that our teammates tried to set up and could not do in under 10 minutes and did it wrong. So I'm just going to start by demonstrating the setup of this crib. Our goal was to minimize the amount of steps that it would take to set up the crib. So we could collapse the crib. So this crib, unlike many others, can be set up in just 2 steps. The first step is raise the top frame. The second step, raise the sleeves. That's all there is to it. And it's locked and ready to use. This is the intuitive setup part. Okay. The nature of this vertical collapse of crib design is that it's very safe. We put the sleeves in a tripod design, a triangle like this, much like a tripod, 3 points of contact. Nothing can fall. They can stay in contact any surface. So this is part of our design. We designed it in such a way that we can have a couple of the hinges fail. So this is 3 hinges failing right now. It's still so even 4 hinges failing, 5 hinges failing, and then that's where it goes. But even if it does fail, this won't drop on top of the baby, unlike existing designs, because the vertical collapsing will drop on top of the frame, but it will not touch the baby. You guys want to talk about it?
Sure. So, along with the safety, we really had to focus on the intuitive setup of the crib, because if a crib isn't intuitive to set up, parents aren't going to use it. They're going to find alternative sleeping solutions, which can be very dangerous for the baby. So, the first part of this process was the 2-step setup. You just lift and you slide the sleeves. Parents don't really even have to think about what they're doing. Lift, slide. The second part of our setup, or of the intuitive setup, is the locking sleeves. Each of them has a color coding on the side. So when the sleeve is down, I don't know if you can see it from up there, but there's a red on the side, and when it's slid up, that part turns green, so that parents can tell when the crib has been properly assembled.
This is visual confirmation. The crib is ready, which is important.
Yes. So we thought that both of those things contributed very much to the intuitive setup of the crib, and would hopefully make this even safer for babies to use.
And so the third requirement is space efficiency. So if you see here, we have the crib sliding underneath a bed.
One of our tiny twin sizes.
I was going to say, if it's under a dorm bed, that could be.
Yes, it fit under a dorm bed. It could also fit in a closet or really anywhere where a parent has room to put it. And the fourth requirement was the cost. So if this crib were manufactured in a mass-produced setting, it would probably sell for about the same price as pack and play, because it looks very similar to a pack and play, has the same materials as a pack and play.
And this is because just the nature of the materials that we use, we're not using metals, we're not using very complicated machining. It's really just very simple geometry and polypropylene, which is a really strong and non-toxic material. This is the Genie crib, the future.
So we were tasked with creating a safe, space-efficient, affordable, and intuitive crib for low-income families, as well as families that may not have large amounts of space requirements. So if somebody lives in an apartment that would need to slide the crib under a bed, or if you want to take the crib to your grandparents' house and put it away, except for when the baby's there.
So we had 4 main requirements. Our crib has to be safe, intuitive to set up, space efficient, and affordable. And the most important requirement of all of those is safety, because our client is kids in danger. So it is safe in 4 main ways. First, it sits on the ground as opposed to being elevated like most cribs. So if the baby falls out of the top of the crib, it won't be a long, dangerous fall to the bottom. And in fact, 23% of crib-related injuries are due to the baby actually falling out, and it's a very long fall from elevated cribs. So we've eliminated that risk. Additionally, it's elliptical in shape, so we've eliminated corners that can form pinch points, and if the corners happen to collapse, they can also form suffocation hazards. On top of that, our mattress is sewn into the structure of the crib, so there's no way the baby can get their finger under in between that little gap, or there's no way the baby can get their head stuck under, which could also be a suffocation hazard. And our sides are made of mesh instead of slats, because slats can actually form pinch points where the baby can get their body parts stuck in between them. Our next major requirement was that it had to be intuitive to set up, and that's really important because if a crib isn't intuitive, the parents might resort to really unsafe alternatives, like using a couch or their own bed where they might suffocate the baby by rolling on top of it. So it's really intuitive because it only requires a simple assembly and disassembly process. To disassemble, we'll show you in a minute, you just push the bottom up, the mattress, and the legs fold over top, and to reassemble it, you just fold the legs down and the mattress just pops down. So it's really simple and easy to use.
The next two requirements that we satisfied were affordability and space efficiency. It's very affordable because as opposed to other competitive products that are already out there, it's made of wood, it's made entirely of plastic and mesh and fabric. There's also very minimal amount of parts. In addition, it's very space efficient because the ellipse takes up very little room on the ground as opposed to a rectangular shaped crib. And it is collapsible as we'll demonstrate, so you can fit it under any standard twin size bed, in a closet, under a couch.
We will now disassemble the baby basket. So to do this, you pull the knots up and pull the mattress up at the same time, and then we just flip the legs over, like so. This is the collapsed version of the crib.
Great.
And then if you want to reassemble it, you just flip the legs back down, and then
Let the mattress drop.
let the mattress drop. And you just pull these legs out until the rope is taut.
So our crib satisfies the requirements of being safe, intuitive to set up, space efficient, and affordable.
Great.
The amount of regulations on anything, the 26 inches moving parts, the V's, pinch points, there's so much. I would have never guessed. And even knowing cribs have to be like past safety tests, I would have never guessed. You have to look at everything.
We went a bit over budget, and it would have been nice to keep it under the $100 budget for each team, but we also knew we couldn't compromise the safety for cheaper materials.
Even though there are safety regulations in place, and there's national organizations that regulate those, you really have to make sure that personally there's nothing that in your design that, although it may not be covered by national regulation, it still is a safe design. Because just because it doesn't say explicitly not to do that, it doesn't mean it's an inherently safe design.
And what might you do to figure those things out that aren't in the regulation?
We couldn't use extensive user testing because, believe it or not, people don't want to put their newborn children in products designed by teenagers. But the important thing is just to look at the design and come at it from a fresh slate. So even if you get really heavily invested in one aspect of the crib, for instance, you really have to come at it at a fresh slate and say, okay, if I was a newborn, a new parent in this situation, how would I approach this? What are the potential flaws in the system? And really make sure you're trying to find the weak points in your design, because you want to make sure that it's safe, regardless of what, on top of what the regulations say. You want to make sure that it's a safe product.
I think it's what he mentioned. It's design thinking, seeing it from the user's point of view, and thinking like, oh, what if the baby did this? What if the baby did this? Rather than just seeing it from ourselves and how we see it.
I think the most important part about the design safety is the way that it folds. Is even if the latches or sides fail, it's not going to fall onto the baby, and there's no collapsible V's as you were talking about in the pack and place. There's no potential for that.
Right.
And there's in no case will it collapse onto the baby. The baby may be able to just crawl outside if something fails.
And if you're making something totally different, what's the safety principle there that you would apply to a totally different scenario?
Make it so that even in the worst case scenario, if it fails, nothing bad will happen to the user.
Anything else?
I just, in my opinion, the competitive designs like to sacrifice bits of safety for portability, and we decided to like ensure structural integrity and not compromise safety at the same time.
Yeah, I agree with that part.
Great, great.